Hello and welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and tonight we're going to break down the Eagles' thrilling come-from-behind victory over the New York Football Giants on Thursday Night Football. Also go over some of the key injuries to look ahead to on Week 7, just potential pivots. Is the guy actually hurt? What to do, make up the backup situation. All sorts of good, actionable stuff. So thank you, as always, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the Keep to Lead pod that just was released this morning on Thursday. I tried not to fanboy out too hard, but I think Akeem gave some awesome information just around some of the matchups entering this weekend. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. But let's get into this game. So the Eagles, oh my goodness, they trailed by 11 with fewer than 5 minutes remaining. Wentz had back-to-back 70-yard touchdown drives, made a number of great throws along the way, ended up bringing them all the way back to get the W. It wasn't, a perfect game by Wentz by any stretch. We've kind of seen this out of him throughout the entire season. But in his defense, really, since those first 3 weeks, really, and maybe even like 2.5. But once that 49ers game came around, he started to play a little bit better in the second half. And then truly, over these last 3 weeks, it's been much more good than bad. Again, tonight wasn't perfect. He had an interception, 3 sacks. Wasn't exactly a situation where we just consistently saw him, making the right decision all the time. There was a stretch in the second quarter where I was saying, he was pretty much adapting Josh Allen's style play. Just rolling around. He's always been an athletic guy. He can create off script, but, it's one thing to kind of create off script for a second and then make a good choice to throw the ball either away or to an open guy downfield. Wentz is out here kind of throwing it all the way back across the field to Travis Fulgham, who anytime Wentz seems to kind of have a bad idea about where to throw the ball, he seems to go to Fulgham. And to his credit, Fulgham usually does at least make the most out of those opportunities. So another big week, though, for Wentz with Fantasyland. Look, if he's just going to be asked to kind of take this entire offense and put them on his back, he's going to continue to produce. It's been this rushing upside recently that's gotten the job done. He adds to that tonight with a little 1-yard read option. Chance for Boston Scott to find the end zone early, but Wentz decided to take it and found his way into the end zone. So 7 carries, 14 yards and a score for Wentz. Also completed 25 of 43 passes for 359 yards and a pair of scores. Got Greg Ward inside the 5-yard line, then also got Boston Scott to win the game on a beautiful wheel route. They were right there at the 1-yard line, and then there was a face mask penalty that pushed him back. Wentz showed no fear, got it right there to his guys. So again, not perfect game, but the bomb to John Hightower for 59 yards was a beautiful throw. Travis Fulgham had another nice 5 catches, 73 yards, with a lot of those being nice ropes by Wentz. Fulgham had a chance to catch a touchdown in the back of the end zone that Wentz put in a good position for him to be able to get, but honestly, just Fulgham, one, wasn't going to have his feet down anyway, and 2, let the ball go through his fingertips. So again, not the perfect performance from Wentz, not exactly 2017 MVP material, but we need him to kind of play a little bit more erratically when there is now no talent around him again. It's so unfortunate that he wasn't playing well when the talent was there, and now the talent's gone, and all of a sudden he's back playing pretty well, but he really has to try to put the team on his back, particularly with Jalen Hurts continuing to get some snaps here from time to time. So honestly, they're using Hurts almost as more. This is why I don't think Hurts is like an immediate threat to take over this job. even before this game, because they're not even using him as like a real quarterback. He's playing more snaps as like a wide receiver and just straight read option quarterback than he is actually dropping back and throwing. He did throw one pass, and that was on a really strange 2-point conversion. They only had 3 offensive linemen there. We're trying to spread things out. Did not work. Kind of curious play calling by the Eagles in those 2-point conversion goal to go situations all evening. One time on 4th and goal, they went with a fade to Hakeem Butler, tight end Hakeem Butler now, according to the Philadelphia Eagles. So interesting stuff there. I love how aggressive Doug Peterson has been with going for on 4th down over the years. But you wish that they could just devote a little bit more resources to try and figure out these plays. PFF Moo had a good point on Twitter, just saying that, hey, why doesn't every NFL team hire 3 college coaches 365 days a year, just come up with 2-point conversion plays? So it's a decent thought, and it would be smart to see the Eagles or someone else, put in some sort of a similar system with these running backs. So it was the Boston Scott show, everybody. And look, I was kind of worried towards the end of the game. I sat here on this podcast. I sat here on several podcasts throughout this week and, said, please trust him as an RB2 despite that week 1 performance. And he ended up coming through with that beautiful, I believe it was 18-yard touchdown catch at the end of the game. Pretty much was a one-hander. Great catch by Scott on that. Had a couple explosive runs on that last drive as well. Overall, 12 carries for Boston Scott, 46 rushing yards, and also had 5 targets, which he caught 3 of for 46 yards and that aforementioned score. Corey Clement was out there. We also saw Jason Huntley out there. Neither of them had more than 2 rushes. It was weird at the end. I mean, Corey Clement got the goal line carry, but truly every single time, I mean, there were drives where Clement or Huntley were getting some reps, but truly seemed like they were just there to, kind of give Scott a breather when he needed it, or just, a brief rest from time to time. Never seemed like it was a situation where it was a true 1A, 1B like we saw in week 1. With Miles Sanders potentially out again, we're going to be firing up firing up Scott as, I don't know, borderline RB1 potentially, even in this economy. I mean, it is a matchup against the Cowboys next week. We know what running backs can do against them. I do think Scott, is definitely going to be someone you're going to want to start in the, majority of your leagues next week if Miles Sanders remains sidelined. With the wide receivers, at Deshaun Jackson, they were really trying to get him the ball early. Had a reverse on the first play and a few targets. Unfortunately, took a pretty bad hit on a punt return towards the end of the game. So looking like a situation where he could be in the concussion protocol, or at a minimum, just hopefully not in that position again. I'm not even sure what he was doing back there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen Djax over the years make some amazing plays as a punt returner, but just not really sure why you're putting the guy back there. And he's had so much trouble kind of staying healthy over the years. But, it is what it is. Please get healthy, Djax. Always love seeing that swagger hound out on the field. Travis Fulgham had another nice game. Team high 11 targets, caught 5 of them for 73 yards. Again, mentioned he could have had a bigger game with a touchdown, but nice 40-yard catch. I mean, couple chunks, and he was even open for other plays earlier in the game that Wentz just wasn't able to get him to. We can continue to treat this guy as, kind of this upside wide receiver 3, borderline wide receiver 2 here moving forward. Djax being back, I mean, look, he's going to be rotating with John Hightower at the most. It's a question of when Alshon Jeffery comes back, if he can maybe put Fulgham into a little bit more of a limited role. But, it could be a situation where we actually see Greg Ward kind of move back and we see Fulgham almost become a big slot. I mean, again, this is how many weeks in a row now that Wentz has featured Fulgham as number 1 guy. He's been the bright spot of their passing game all season long. They're not just going to willingly go out of their way and stop, feeding the guy the ball. So, hey, if someone wants to sell high on him, I get it. But Travis Fulgham, as long as Jeffrey remains out, and I don't even think if Jeffrey's dust, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised at all. I'm not sitting here, saying that you need to be picking up Jeffrey and expecting this sort of production from him. But just he's been in the organization long enough that you do worry about Fulgham snaps going down potentially if Jeffrey does return. They want to truly give him another chance. Until that happens, continue to treat him as an upside wide receiver 3. Last point on the Eagles, Richard Rodgers, their tight end, caught 6 of 8 targets for 85 yards. Wentz just loves feeding tight ends, man. You can put him on that list with Russell Wilson and, Deshaun Watson, where, Wentz has already enabled some awesome Zach Ertz seasons, but I would say about Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, if you ever just gave them one tight end, for a whole season, that dude's going to be a lock for double-digit touchdowns. There's been some rumors about Zach Ertz, potentially being out of town. Ertz had some awesome years, in Philly and just racked up those receptions, but really excited to see what Dallas Goedert tight end 1 season could look like later this year and into 2021. If you're able to get him for a reasonable price, I'm not exactly sure when he's going to be back, but, sooner rather than later, hopefully, and then it's going to be his full-time job, and we all know Goddard is a fantastic player when he's given the opportunities. Quick shout out to our sponsor before we get going. Sorry, everybody. Quick note before the sponsors, real quick. I've had a lot of you not complain, but just note on Twitter that, hey, Ian, hearing you swallow a little bit, and I am trying to work on that with muting the mics from time to time. Honestly, it's just very hard to not having a co-host or having any breaks to talk for the Sunday spots, Sunday pods, especially 60 minute straights. Obviously trying to do better on that, and apologies. Want to make this experience as comfortable for everyone as possible. So continue to give me feedback, both good and bad. I appreciate it. Just want to let you guys know I hear you. I'm working on it, seeing what we can do, and apologies in advance. But on to our quick sponsor here. Just so you know, this podcast is brought to you by pristineauction.com. Check out their daily auctions with $1 starting bids on over 8,000 football items up for auction. Pristine Auction guarantees authenticity on every product. Use code PFF for $10 off your first invoice, and we are currently giving away a signed Amari Cooper jersey. So please rate and review the podcast, and we will be choosing a winner next week to get that Amari Cooper jersey out too. All right, on the New York Football Giants. So Daniel Jones supplied one of the best moments of the entire season. 80-yard run, read option. Joe Buck had already said that he's gone, and the turf monster got him. We've seen some amazing, sniper footage. I saw Steven Ruiz, who's a great follow on Twitter, he had a nice little edit of the Blue Turtle Show from Mario Kart taking down Daniel Jones all the way down the field. Just a pretty hilarious play from Daniel Jones. They were able to score on the drive. Wayne Gallman punched them from a yard out, so it ended up being a joke. Everyone could get behind, but man, just brutal moment there for a second if they hadn't have been able to score. Jones is, everyone likes to say sneaky athletic. He's just legit athletic. He kind of entered the league with a similar profile to Josh Allen almost. So obviously Josh Allen is a better runner, but we have seen Jones now for multiple weeks. As we've been saying, him running the ball truly is the best part of this offense. And I mean, you look at the rushing stats from the Giants, and it really is comical. Jones had 4 carries, 92 yards. Wayne Gallman, 10 carries, 34 yards. Devonta Freeman, 3 carries, 8 yards. Dion Lewis, 3 carries, 23 yards, and lost a fumble. Freeman suffered an ankle injury and had to leave early. That's why Gallman was so involved and got that touchdown. Previous to tonight, I mean, Freeman was truly taking over that Saquon Barkley role. So if Freeman remains out, everyone, fire up Wayne Gallman as a volume-induced RB2. It's a situation where, posted this on Twitter, like, when Saquon went down, don't forget how many people were sitting there screaming that, okay, Dion Lewis is the guy. He's been the RB2 all season. He needs to be the guy now that Saquon's gone. That's not how these backfields work. And I mean, if we, just look at last week, look at the Minnesota Vikings situation with Alexander Mattison. That was one of the guys we were most confident in would take over. And even then, once the negative game script arose, we really saw it was, Amir Abdullah coming in, taking a ton of those reps. So with this situation, and if Freeman is out, I am expecting Gallman to be the lead guy well over Dion Lewis. And honestly, with the Bengals, we'll talk about it a little more later. I'll save that one for later. But, keep this situation in mind when we talk about that Bengals backfield situation later if Mixon is ultimately sidelined this week. But back to the Giants. So Daniel Jones overall passing 20 completions on 30 attempts for 187 yards, pair of touchdowns, one to Sterling Shepard inside the 10-yard line, the other one to Golden Tate. Nice little 39-yard touchdown on a slot kind of streak. He only had 2 targets. Both of them were contested. The touchdown, though, was great. Typical Golden Tate fashion. Caught the ball, cornerback fell down, and Golden Tate, backpedaled into the end zone. I haven't run the PFF stats yet. I apologize to everyone, but, I would guess that Golden Tate has the most touchdowns over the past decade where he is literally walking backwards into the end zone. But I'll see what numbers we can crunch and how much I can, make sure that's true here moving forward. But for now, take my word for it. Darius Slayton officially lost the battle for the big play Slay. Nickname against Darius Slay. Only 2 catches on 4 targets for 23 scoreless yards. Hey, Darius Slay was there first with nickname first, and he just won the battle. So sorry, Darius Slayton, but you are just now Darius Slayton, and Darius Slay is big play Slay. The book is closed. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my TED Talk. Sterling Shepard had a great game, first one back. And shout out to ESPN's Mike Clay, always doing really good wide receiver, cornerback, and projection stuff over there. But really cool stat. So Shepard has now been targeted at least 6 times in 18 consecutive games. That excludes week 2 when he was hurt and left after 15 snaps. But either way, man, Shepard continuously getting involved. At 8 targets tonight, caught 6 of them, 59 yards, and that score. And, he's one of those receivers. I say this a lot about Jerry Jeudy, but, after the Sterling Shepard catch and you see that replay hit and then they go to the, solo shot of the wide receiver cornerback, get your popcorn ready because this guy has some awesome routes. I mean, even his first one, just a little 7-yard pivot, truly gorgeous sight to see. Now we have Evan Engram, who did not help his cause at the end of the game. He had, Daniel Jones put one right in the breadbasket. Probably would have been a good 30-yard gain. As someone that's pointed out, I mean, going into this game, Jason freaking Witten had more receptions on balls thrown more than 10 yards downfield, 2, than Evan Engram, only being out 1. He did catch another one tonight and should have had a second one had he held on to that one. But either way, I mean, it's still a situation where going in this game, he had the single lowest average target depth of any tight end in the league. And it's like the Giants' solution to try to get him more involved is just to hand him the ball, like on reverses and that kind of stuff. So look, Engram is very athletic, but he is not Jonnu Smith. What are we doing with this guy in the backfield? Use Golden Tate like the true yak guy in your offense if you really want to be doing that. Why not just send Engram down the field and force the defenses to try to respect that? So worked a few times. He got open. I know he dropped one, so I'm not, not a situation where we can stick up for him too much this week. But it is a shame because when Ingram's been on the field over these past 3 seasons, obviously dealing with a lot of injuries, but when healthy, he's always been awesome. And the fact that he's been playing almost every single down this year and still to have the minimal production that he's put forward was a smash spot this week and wasn't quite able to come through. 6 catches, 46 yards, and 3 yards rushing. I mean, not horrible, but again, he's going to be on that kind of borderline tight end 1 range, which before this year was just really hard to fathom. So that's going to be the game again. Eagles 22, Giants 21. Great game all around. Quick shout out to our sponsor before we get on to these injuries. Monkey Knife Fight. That's right. You guys know him. You better love him because all first-time depositors at Monkey Knife Fight that put at least $20 into their account while using promo code PFF will receive a free PFF Edge annual subscription. That's a $40 value for just $20, and you'll get the opportunity to turn that $20 into even more money playing daily fantasy and prop games at one of the fastest-growing fantasy sports sites in the USA and Monkey Knife Fight. So go to Monkey Knife Fight and deposit your $20 with promo code PFF today to receive your free PFF Edge annual subscription. All right, everyone, moving on to some injuries for the main slate. If you haven't seen it already, nice article on PFF from Mario Pilato where he goes through the injury reports. Smart guy, knows what he's talking about with injuries, and he'll give you the updates on whether or not you should be expecting these guys to play. But, going off of Mario's work and going off of just, what we've seen from these players all year and just injury reports for this week, here are my thoughts from around the league. So first off, DeAndre Hopkins has not practiced all week with an ankle injury ahead of the smash spot against the Seahawks. Look, it's okay. He had this in week 4, didn't practice all week, questionable going into Sunday. He's only missed 2 games in 8 years. Hopkins is going to be out there playing through the pain, and when he was playing through the pain earlier this year in week 4, didn't look any worse for the wear. Continue to fire him up. The Seahawks have still allowed, it's like 157 or 147 more receiving yards to wide receivers in the next closest defense in the league, and they have had a bye week. So Jamal Adams has not practiced this week with that groin injury. Fire up DeAndre Hopkins as a top 3 player at the position. Falcons wide receivers Calvin Ridley with an elbow injury and Julio Jones with a hamstring have been a little bit banged up. Ultimately, they were both limited on Thursday. Sounds like both guys will be good to go. Fire up with confidence. This Falcons-Lions game, if there's a game stack to attack in DFS this week, certainly not a sneaky one, as I accidentally slipped out in a podcast earlier this week. But yeah, Falcons-Lions, expect plenty of points on the scoreboard in that one. John Brown, Bills wide receiver with his calf injury, has not practiced all week ahead of this, potential big spot against the Jets. So we all know Stephon Diggs is set up well, but don't sleep on Gabriel Davis getting some legit run if John Brown is sidelined. They're going to use Isaiah McKenzie too, and obviously Cole Beasley should be the number 2 guy in the pecking order. But, Dawson Knox is hurt too, behind Stephon Diggs. Someone else needs to get these targets. And, Gabriel Davis, I believe he's only 3,600 on DraftKings, might be a good pivot off of, Brashad Perriman at 37. Who's not going to be chalky to begin with. But, Gabriel Davis catching passes from Josh Allen versus, Perriman catching from Darnold or Flacco. You can see the potential appeal there. Joe Mixon with his foot injury. So I brought this up earlier. Got the Bengals facing the Browns this week. Mixon has not practiced all week. So he suffered the injury in the first half last week. He returned and kept playing, but it was split much more down the middle with Gio throughout the second half. And I think that split approach in the second half would still be what we would see if Mixon ultimately doesn't play. I do not expect Giovanni Bernard to get the same, 20 carry, 3 to 5 target role that we've seen Mixon consistently get for the better part of these last 3 years. He's going to play plenty. I would expect, 8 to 12 carries with 5+ targets potentially. That's a great role. That's like what Boston Scott just had. That's the reason why we fired up Boston Scott as an RB2. Just realize, this Bengals offense, quite a few more pieces to kind of throw the ball around to than Gio. They got a lot of good wide receivers out there, even Dusty AJG. But, the thing here is they have Samaje Perine. They have Travion Williams. Like the Giants, don't assume that the, more scat back prone RB2 is going to leap up into the workhorse RB1 role just because these other guys are inactive on game day. I know Perine actually got his first carry of the year last week. So Gio, he'll be a borderline RB2, but I just don't think, behind that offensive line against this Browns defense, it's going to be a great spot for someone that, again, is going to be flirting more with that 15 touch mark instead of, the 20-25 that we would normally be expecting Mixon to get. I don't think Travion or Perine are going to have enough touches on their own to provide value, but I think they are going to pull down Gio. Kareem Hunt, so he's been limited all week with this groin injury. Just make sure he's not going to be having an injury designation going into the weekend. I have a DFS article going up on Friday and, making the cash game lineup. I'm going to have to retool some things, assuming he's fine and we get some confidence with it because I love him in this spot this week. I would, probably either try to give him the flex or go down from Aaron Jones. We'll see. But if he does not have an injury designation, fire up Hunt with confidence because 2 weeks ago he started cramping in the fourth quarter. And then last week, it was just not even like comeback mode, garbage time. It was just the Browns like pretty much wanted to go home, and things were getting so bad for Baker against the Steelers. So just in terms of quarters 1 through 3 over the past 2 weeks without Nick Chubb, Hunt has by far and away been the number one back ahead of Dearness Johnson. So we saw in that Cowboys game with the usage when Hunt was questionable going in, it really was more split between Hunt, Dearness Johnson, even Dontrell Hilliard getting some work once Nick Chubb went down. But assuming Hunt doesn't have that injury designation, fire him up as a legit top 5 RBs with confidence. Quick note on the Cowboys, Aldon Smith with a neck injury and Zach Martin with a concussion haven't practiced all week. It's concerning, and I know it's, a decent bounce back spot for Zeke, but look, this Cowboys offense without Dak under center cannot be trusted. And, against that Washington front, if you're going to take away Zach Martin now, already got the starting centers, starting center and the starting tackles out. Not good, fam. On the other side of the ball, though, maybe finally Antonio Gibson season. I know McKissick's still going to be involved, but man, if there's ever a week that Gibson could make, those 12 to 15 carries he could potentially see really count, it would be against an Aldon Smith-less Cowboys defense. So we already know it's Terry McLaurin week, but particularly in DFS, don't mind, throwing a few shares out at Antonio Gibson. Gonna happen at some point, as much as J.D. McKissick and Ron Rivera are making that not happen so far. Broncos tight end Noah Fant with this ankle injury, so got in a full practice on Thursday. We're expecting him to play against the Chiefs. Look, his rookie year stats have him on a select list with a bunch of future Hall of Famers or all pros, and of course, Chris Herndon. I'm not crying, you're crying. Anyway, Fant this year, 5 catches, 81 yards in the score, 4 catches, 57 yards in the score, 5 catches, 46 yards, and then most recently 5 catches, 35 yards in just half a game. So you can fire him up as a legit tight end 1 in this matchup. Drew Lock, I was already gushing over him enough this week, but 18-yard average target depth. Let's get wild, everyone. Fant's one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. Hopefully Lock is not afraid to shower him a target. I hope people haven't been throwing out the Fant splits with Locke last season. He was truly playing through multiple injuries then. I understand he's hurt now. If we see the snaps come back and he is playing, only 50% again compared to 80%, we can have that conversation. But I don't think it's a situation at all where Locke isn't going to be targeting Noah Fant just because he doesn't want to. He's one of the best receivers on the Broncos, might truly be the best one, with all due respect to Patrick and Judy right now with Courtland Sutton out. Lions wide receiver Marvin Jones was the DNP on Wednesday, got the limited on Thursday with a knee injury. We just saw what Justin Jefferson did against his Falcons secondary, so I think, at least in the DFS streets, Jones is getting a little bit of underdog appeal. Yeah, and I was kind of on him last week going in that Jaguars game, but it was a Kenny Golladay week. Had some stats going into last week about how basically in 2019, Golladay and Marvin Jones combined for 20 touchdowns, but they only scored in the same game twice. And, we saw when Golladay did dud, it was the Marvin Jones show. So I really think if you're building these stacks, as much as it might seem like you want to go with Stafford, Golladay, and Marvin, might make more sense to go Stafford, Marvin, Hockenson, or Stafford, Golladay, Hockenson. So we'll see. Marvin's been struggling all year, but he continues to play pretty much every single snap. He's never really been a guy that is consistently, just running the most pristine routes and separating. I feel like he's always just helped, winning with physicality, contested catchability. And we know contested catch situations. He's one of the best guys we've seen really over the past 3-4 seasons. Pull out whoever you want. But we had that 4 touchdown game against the Vikings last year. I feel like it's going to be a blow up at some point. This would be the matchup where that could happen. Robert Tonyan is looking not good for this Texans game with an ankle injury. Back-to-back, did not practice to start the week. Also, Mercedes Lewis went from limited to a DNP with a knee injury. So this could mean Jay Sternberger, who I have, I have more than one best ball lineup with Jay Sternberger in it that would appreciate, Tanya and Lewis taking a week off. Original offseason fantasy darling, receiving friendly tight end. That we really did think Sternberger was going to be the guy this year. It could work. He's going to be cheap on DFS. I get it. I would be hesitant, though. There is certainly a goose egg, potential, even with Lewis and Tonyan out. Never know what the Packers are going to do. Could easily just, go more two running back sets and 3 wide receivers. Far from a guarantee, even with those injuries, but interesting nonetheless for you gamblers out there. With the Texans, so here's a situation you'd be looking to target instead. Jordan Akins with this ankle concussion back-to-back, did not practice to start the week, so keep firing up Darren Fells as a legit borderline tight end 1. Played over 80% of his snaps in 3 straight weeks, touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Look, he's 6'7" and 270 pounds. He's 34 years of age. He's not a burner, but Deshaun Watson likes him. He likes targeting him in the red zone. zone. So last 24 games dating back to week 1 of 2019, Darren Fells has scored 11 times. That's almost once every 2 weeks. So I know he's got the 2-touchdown streak going, but truly, it's not fluky. I mean, okay, the touchdown 2 weeks ago was fluky on a busted coverage, but truly, Watson keeps going back the well with Fells when they're in the end zone. It makes sense that's more than ever without DeAndre Hopkins, considering, the rest of their kind of pint-sized speedster wide receivers they got out there. Sammy Watkins with his hamstring injury starting off the week with a DNP, not really expecting to play. So DeMarcus Robinson is going to have a near every down role again. He's a viable punt play in DFS. Just realize that it's Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then DeMarcus Robinson. He's probably going to be number 4 option, and don't get sucked in too much here. Last year, Robinson went off against the Raiders in week 2, didn't do anything in the rest of the year. We didn't give him the same amount of shit that we gave Sammy because, that's not quite as fun, but Robinson is kind of in that same boom or bust mold with far more busts than boom in recent history. Mecole Hardman and Byron Pringle are splitting snaps, and I want to cry about that. Please do not play either of them unless Mecole happens to score, and then I told you so. Justin Jackson has a knee injury and Keenan Allen with a back, but both have been limited in practice, and they should be good to go. I mean, I love this game going into really any form of fantasy this week. I mean, both guys can be fired up, and by both guys, obviously Jackson and Keenan, but particularly in the backfield, both Jackson and Kelly. I know last week or 2 weeks ago before the bye, Jackson was in a situation where he got more carries, way more targets, but Kelly was the one that was on the field for all 4 of their snaps inside the 10-yard line. So this is a Jaguars defense that's allowed 30 points in every single game since week 1. I mean, Justin Herbert, he's been playing great even against tough competition coming off the bye. I think the Chargers clear 30 with ease, and all of, Jackson, Kelly, Keenan, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, sign me up for each and every one of them. Michael Thomas is dealing with an ankle and now a hamstring injury ahead of this Panthers matchup. And this is a shame because, without James Bradbury there, I don't know who can guard Michael Thomas on the Panthers. I know Mike will tell you that, nobody can guard him, but particularly without James Bradbury on the Panthers, they're not going to be able to make it hard for him. So, not looking good. He went from limited on Wednesday to a DNP on Thursday with the new hamstring issue. If he's out, continue to fire up Manny Sanders as a legit, kind of wide receiver 3, upside wide receiver 3, even kind of approaching that top 25 territory. Him and Breeze have really been on the same page in recent weeks. Jets receiver room all kind of banged up. Crowder went from limited on Wednesday to a DNP on Thursday with a groin injury. Rashad Perriman's fine, though, and Sam Darnold still limited with the shoulder, so we'll see. Berrios would start. Crowder isn't in there. I think the bigger story here, though, is that Denzel Mims is reportedly going to be activated this week, and he's been practicing with the starters all week, so he's going to be in 3 wide receiver sets. Just $3,000 on DraftKings replacing Jeff Smith. So this guy truly has a great athletic profile. I know it's the Jets. I get it. But a situation where, if Mims can even catch 3 balls and just get 50 yards or something like that, he's going to meet value as, that far and away punt play. Also like Rashad Perriman at 3,700 if you're not feeling quite so crazy. Perriman did have, I believe, the 8th most air yards in the league last week. If Darnold comes back in that shoulder, I'm a little worried if he's going to be wanting to air it out. And obviously that was with Flacco. That Perriman had all those air yards last week. But either way, all 3 wide receivers and Perriman, Crowder, and Jeff Smith last week were playing nearly every down role. So with Mims expecting to go in over Jeff Smith, situation where he should be running the majority of the routes in the game. All right, 4 more of these situations for you guys, then we'll get out of here. With the Steelers, Deontay Johnson with a back injury. He's been full all week, expecting him to come back. And that's one note on Juju Smith-Schuster. Per usual, DNP on Wednesday with the knee injury, and now he's going to tough it out and continue to play. So with everyone healthy, Claypool's been rotating with Washington. So Washington, he's not even playing bad, but truly, Chase Claypool is averaging 14 yards per target this year. I think Washington's at 7.1. Nobody else is even over 7. So 1 target to Claypool this year has been worth double the amount of any other Steelers wide receiver, basically. Tough to be too confident about any of these guys at the moment. It sounds like it's going to be probably a 4 wide receiver rotation, but Claypool, they continue to scheme the guy, inside the 10-yard line with the rush attempts and all sorts of other cool stuff in the passing game. I would go Claypool, Deontay, and then Juju, but truly, I'm pretty out on Juju at the moment. He's just not moving right. He's not getting the targets. And again, when they're designing the ball to go to one of these wide receivers, it's been Claypool all season. Deontay, was showing nice chemistry with Ben and everything, and I think he could get back in that kind of low A-dot, high volume role. But, Claypool's been their best wide receiver all season. They're not going to just suddenly take this guy off the field. Again, they have only drafted Santonio Holmes and Plexico Burress higher than him since the year 2000. They did not pick him to sit him on the bench this year, and he clearly is proving them right for doing that. With the 49ers, so Jeff Wilson with a calf injury has been limited, and Raheem Mostert, Kyle Shanahan said, will most likely go on IR with a high ankle sprain. So if Wilson is out, we can feel good about JaMycal Hasty, who this week, George Kittle compared to Matt Breida. Everyone's saying how good that is. I mean, look, I like Matt Breida. There's nothing. He's so fast. He can receive. I mean, I thought he could do great things in both San Fran and Miami. But we also have, Shanahan, who traded him, and then Miami, who's now not even using him behind Myles Gaskin. So a situation where, okay, I think Kittle meant as a compliment, but I'm not quite so sure how well that went over. But look, I think the big story here is we're not going to see McKinnon get that every down 92% roll that he had, before when Mostert was out. So in that situation, we saw Jeff Wilson not be involved, but that was also when Deebo Samuel and George Kittle were out. I mean, at that point, I think McKinnon was truly the number one just option in that offense that they wanted to get the ball to, maybe with the only other exception being Brandon Ayuk. So in the week since, even last week, I mean, Jeff Wilson was out, but once Mostert went down, McKinnon was really working behind Hasty when they wanted to get the ball to someone on the ground. So if Wilson comes back, complete mess, three-headed backfield. Otherwise, I would almost favor Hasty to out-touch McKinnon going into the spot. Honestly, I'd probably try to stay away from most people in this offense other than Deebo and Kittle. I just think the chances of Belichick and the Patriots really having Jimmy G's number makes sense, and they're obviously not an easy matchup to begin with. Slow-paced game, not exactly the matchup you want to be attacking in fantasy land. Most start-sit questions. Again, other than Kittle particularly, I would probably pass. With the Buccaneers, we got just all kinds of injuries here. I mean, just so everyone knows what they're going through. Godwin's got a hammy. Evans' ankle injury. Gronk still has a shoulder thing. Scotty Miller with the hip and groin. And Leonard Fournette with the ankle. Everyone was limited, except for Fournette, who was actually full. So we're expecting all these guys to be ready to go. Just keep in mind, as you're watching them, that they are playing through the pain right now. So the backfield situation, though. So Fournette, assuming he's good to go, Rojo is playing too well to be phased out. But, is he going to keep getting 20, 25 touches per week? Probably not. I think he's going to go from that 20 to 25 to even 30 touch range to something more around 15 every week. I think he's the lead guy for sure. But look, LaShawn McCoy, Keyshawn Vaughn, they're taking the pass down work, and Fournette's going to take something away if he's going to be active. So it's, maybe he'll be the goal line guy, but again, I've talked about that being an overrated term. If Rojo's on the field and again inside the 3-yard line, unless there's a timeout or something, he's going to continue to be that guy. Just treat Rojo as more of, a top 20 RB instead of a top 10 RB that he's, honestly been flirting with Fournette, completely out of the picture. All right, last one here with the Titans, A.J. Brown. Oh, man. A.J. Brown, wide receiver 1 season, might be getting yanked away from us again, people. It pains me to say this and break this news to you all, but AJB downgraded to a DNP on Thursday after not even being on the injury report on Wednesday. That is not good. And it is the same knee injury. Maybe it's just a rest day, but you would think they could just write rest in that situation. So we'll see on Friday. Hopefully just management. But, even when he's been putting up these numbers, it hasn't been, the same guy that just broke the PFF database and yak. He's kind of just been getting fed targets in the red zone and making them count. Look, the guy is a physical beast, and he's got, Tannehill playing out of his mind right now, giving him the ball. So situation where he's still making the most out of it, but, would not be shocked if his knee really isn't recovered and there is some issue there because, again, just haven't seen that same just absurd explosion out of him for really this whole season. Good news is, though, Jonnu Smith went from a limited to a full practice on Thursday. Anthony Ferguson would be a legit start option if Jonnu was out, but not looking like that's the case. Continue to treat Jonnu as a tight end 1. He has been all season. Before we get out of here, one more shout out to a sponsor. If you like fantasy football, you need to be playing on Underdog Fantasy, my favorite new fantasy football app. Underdog Fantasy just released an all-new format for their snake drafts. It's called Battle Royale. So in Battle Royale, you draft one week team like you normally would, but instead of only competing against the other team in your specific draft, you compete with teams from other drafts. This way, they pull together the prizes so they can offer big tournament-style payouts while keeping the live snake draft format. The first Battle Royale is already up in the Underdog app and website, $5 to enter, and has a $25K prize pool. Pays out $5,000 to first place. So make your first deposit today. Be sure to use my code PFF after you do. Let them know that I sent you. Thank you all for tuning in to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, coming to you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Want to wish everyone the best of luck here on Week 7. Go get that money, and I will be back to talk to you Monday morning with recaps from all those games. So until next time, take care, everybody.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.